Hi, everybody. Time to get you into the weekend. The big story, which I've been talking about, and I'm sure you've seen all over the place, is the freeze warning, which I'll get to for tonight. Not something we would have issued in, say, January, but this time of the year, it's the first widespread freeze expected. So, yeah, big heads up for people to remember to connect your garden hoses from your house, maybe turn the water off to your sprinkler systems, bring in some flower pots if it's something you want to try to save, and anything in the garden that you might want to not lose tonight. We have cleared for the most part. I have a few cameras down, but look how beautiful Depot Bay is. Pretty clear out in the gorge, Cathedral Ridge. There's Gresham on the east side, the Main Stream Winery, Lewis River up in Woodland, Oregon City, out in the gorge, kind of partly cloudy. It's taken a while to break up the clouds in central and eastern Oregon. In fact, over in Aspen Lakes, right in here in Sisters, you can still see it's fairly cloudy. The gorge is cleared, the coast is cleared. And if you are traveling in the coming days out in the parts of the Columbia Basin, the East Gorge, eventually we're going to get locked into a cloud deck because of a temperature inversion, which I'm going to get into as well. Here are the temperatures. The forecast high, the forecast high today, 54. And that's where we're at right now. So it looks like mid 50s. This is embarrassing, but my nose just, I've got an itch. All right, mid 50s in Portland and Salem and Vancouver are all the same. I'm watching east winds. Let's see what we've got. Not a lot of wind, but these are sustained winds. Troutdale east at 12. That's significant. And notice Vancouver northeast at 7. Salem north of 14. Remember, part of the story coming up is that whenever you have wind at night, it keeps the temperature from reaching its full cooling potential. So that's something that we are going to be dealing with tonight in terms of kind of guessing what the temperature is going to end up being. So here's the freeze warning, everything in purple, Southwest Washington, the Willamette Valley, all the way down to Eugene, also parts of the Columbia Basin, the Dalles in the East Gorge included. Again, this is right now issued for tonight and Saturday morning, maybe reissued, at least for some areas, as you go into Sunday morning. So what I've done here is kind of show you the setup. This is the surface map this afternoon. I've outlined this broad area of high pressure, which basically runs up into the Gulf of Alaska and a little bit inland in Canada to our north. All of this is going to continue to drop south in the coming days and eventually work all the way down into Texas. And when we get on the back side of it, we're going to see east winds increasing. Here's the same batch of air. This is at 5,000 feet, the air temperature of the air mass. And again, this is fairly cool air that extends up into the Hudson Bay area of Canada as well. And pardon me, this is the drying air mass that is going to set the stage for these freezing temperatures that I'm going to be talking about. So this is tomorrow morning. This is the National Weather Service's, I think this is their blended model. It gives enough wind coming out of the gorge to keep PDX at 35, down into Salem 31. I think there absolutely will be some freezing spots at the coast. This shows the coast above freezing, but in the 30s. But I think, again, there will be some freezing spots. I think that's Bend, 19 degrees. There's Burns, 11. 22 up in Spokane. Again, plenty of very hard freezing spots around the state. And realize if the winds were perfectly calm tonight, I literally think almost every single spot on this map would be freezing. The only reason areas won't be freezing is because just a touch of some wind. And by the way, remember that air mass I showed you extending up into Canada? This is Montana. Look at all the below zero numbers, -4, -2, -3, -6 tonight. So that is absolutely a hard freeze expected, without question. So I've been putting this on TV, and I think I showed you a similar graphic the last time we spoke. Freeze warning, temperature forecast, basically clear skies Saturday, Sunday, Monday mornings when you wake up. Calm wind areas 26 to 32 degrees, as low as 26. With clear skies and calm wind areas. Again, it's a north to east breeze. So if you live in a spot where you typically get blocked by that on your average day, then you're going to have calm winds and you're at least going to be down to 32 and you might be in the upper 20s. Maybe you're down to 26. East wind spots, especially out along the Columbia River, Troutdale, for example, Camas, for example. Good bet of staying above freezing. It would depend on the absolute micro area that you live in as to whether you get wind. But if you have wind, 35 to 40 degrees potentially is what we're dealing with. And the wind is the only reason we would not be above freezing in the coming days. Now, what I'm doing here is showing you the freezing level. So the freezing level this afternoon was around 4,000 feet. Tomorrow, that same freezing level, I'm kind of looking at my notes here, that same freezing level on Saturday goes up to around 6,000 feet. By Sunday, the freezing level goes up more to about 8,000 or 9,000 feet, goes up to about 12,000 feet, the peak of Mount Hood on Monday and Tuesday. And notice on Sunday, I make note that there's a temperature inversion. What basically is going to happen as the overall air mass warms up, we're going to keep a layer of cold weather, in part being fed by east winds coming out of the gorge down low. So once we get into Sunday and especially Monday, it could be as warm up at Timberline Lodge, especially in the afternoon as it is down here in the valley. And it's probably going to be warmer up at the lodge some of those nights than it will be in the valley. Again, temperature inversions. Now, here's the really interesting thing about temperature inversions. Temperature inversions in the wintertime almost always produce kind of a horizontal flat plane of high winds that is at the elevation of Crown Point, the Vista House out in the Columbia River Gorge. So I think Sunday during the day, we're going to see those winds maybe get from the east to 50 miles per hour or higher. And that doesn't mean it's going to be really windy out in Troutdale, but you would assume there's at least going to be some 20 to 30 mile per hour winds out in the mouth of the East Gorge, or the West Gorge, blowing into the Willamette Valley. So realize, those of you that monitor the east winds for where you are, that's something we're going to be dealing with and something the gorge is going to be dealing with in the coming days as well. All right, this is courtesy of KGW TV. This is Sunday at noon. Again, the temperature inversion really starts taking hold Sunday. So we're going to have, we saw the east winds right now to 10, 15 miles per hour out in Troutdale. Kind of the same thing expected tomorrow. But Sunday, those winds start to pick up. And at noon, now this shows, see the arrows? This is east winds blowing in. Hood River, 20 miles per hour. PDX along the Columbia River, 35 miles per hour. Salem doesn't get that east wind, but it does show there's a north wind, and these are gusts. So just because you see a 16 mile per hour gust in Salem, the reality is most of the time the winds would be 5 to 10 miles per hour, pretty light. This does show an east wind and probably noticeably breezy at times up in Astoria along the Columbia River. It also shows that in Tillamook County. By the time you get into Lincoln City, there's a light wind. Sometimes you get a little east wind spike in Yamhill County around McMinnville that goes into Newport. So this is something that I will be watching. Again, those east winds would blow Sunday. They would blow Monday. They might start to decrease once we get going into Tuesday. And with all of that said, courtesy of Hazeldale Tire Pros, this is my 7-day forecast, which I've got back on my own manual numbers. So obviously there's a huge temperature range the next couple of nights with clear skies. I put 32 on the Portland forecast for Saturday morning and Sunday morning. There will be freezing spots. On the flip side, out along the Columbia River, maybe the airport itself stays more like 35, 36, maybe even closer to 40 on Sunday. So you get the idea. We've talked about this. It's a lot of sunshine going into Tuesday. Then Tuesday, we start getting some high cloudiness. Wednesday, we see increasing cloud cover. I had a front coming in Wednesday, but now all of the models, the American, the European, the Canadian, hold that chance of rain back to Thursday. And that initial front that comes in Thursday could be fairly weak with kind of a rainy day, but light rain amounts. And then as we get going into Friday and into that following weekend, that's the first weekend in November, there's a stronger system showing up Friday night into Saturday, and that's looking pretty wet at this time. All right, that is your update. Enjoy the sun. A lot of talk about freezing temperatures, a lot of talk about east winds, especially getting stronger on Sunday and Monday. But beyond all of that, we're going to be enjoying a beautiful blue sky. And as you can see here, temperatures are going to be at least mid to maybe upper 50s. I mean, today's been 54, 55. It's got to be warmer than that eventually. We could get back up to 60 on Wednesday. Halloween looks great, as you can see on Tuesday. November 1st is Wednesday. Okay, have a good weekend. I'll probably talk to you on Sunday. Hit subscribe if you haven't to this YouTube channel. That helps me out. My weather site, you can keep updated, portlandweather.com, and I'll talk to you soon.